congratulations on the Golden Globe nomination.
Thank you very much.
Does this become old hat at some point, or is it still exciting?
Never becomes old hat. The challenge to get films together and try and find an audience for them, particularly if they're challenging subjects in a world where we have so many pressures on our time, is always difficult. So something like the Golden Globe nominations are such an amazing way of just alerting people to an independent film they might not otherwise see, and saying, hey, this is playing as a comedy. It is funny. It is musical as well, because Michelle Williams does some fantastic work as Marilyn Monroe, singing and dancing at either end of the movie. And it's a beautiful account of an unusual snapshot, not a biopic, but a kind of snapshot of a moment in time for both her, Marilyn Monroe, and him, Laurence Olivier.
Yeah, well, speaking of the snapshot, we enter the film through the eyes of this, ambitious 23-year-old Colin Clark, the third AD on The Prince and the Showgirl. But for me, the really fascinating relationship, although that's wonderful, the fascinating relationship is between your characters, Laurence Olivier and Marilyn, because it's contentious, but they're also these wonderful mirrors for each other. They're like positive and negative images.
Yeah.
How did you view the relationship? How did you develop with Michelle and Simon Curtis?
I think we did feel that there was, we should have the gloves off on their passion for each other, which in another life might have, resulted in a, tempestuous affair between them. But in fact, it's a kind of artist's boxing match. He believes in precision and mechanical certainty and show up on time and still be brilliant, but there's structure. She, by contrast, doesn't believe in structure. Arrive on set when you're ready. That might be 3 days after you were called, but you're ready. If the spirit is with you and the muse is with you, then do it. It'll be wilder. It'll be more spontaneous. It'll be. Olivier says, well, you can fake that. You can pretend that. And so, at this very high level of achievement, they really go at each other. Of course, it makes for quite a lot of humor because Olivier's frustration and exasperation is comic. Because he's impotent. The movie's being financed by Marilyn Monroe Productions. I mean, she's his boss. He doesn't like that, so you also have in there a primitive male-female ego clash as well. There's vanity involved, but there's also these two amazing artists. And I think Olivier loved her, hated her, admired her, was contemptuous of her, revered her, was appalled by her, and that sort of inner tension was fun in some of the sort of more explosive theatrical moments, but it played in private moments for both of them. For two people as successful as it's possible to be in show business, they were insecure and vulnerable and frightened and lonely and self-doubting in all the ways that we perhaps can recognize in our own lives. We have those little moments, but in the lives of these artists, very extreme and very entertaining.
Throughout the course of your career, you've so often been compared to Sir Laurence. I mean, you won the Sir Laurence Olivier Award in 1983, and then you both directed yourselves as Hamlet and Henry V. Is it completely surreal to step into this role and play him now?
It's very surprising to have begun at 15 to listen to his voice on a recording of speeches from Shakespeare films, to make Shakespeare films, to write to him for advice, to get some advice, to never work with him, but then to go through a career where you're playing classical roles that he had played many times, and that any actor playing them ended up being compared to Laurence Olivier, almost always to their disadvantage, because Olivier's work was so exemplary. But to actually end up playing him was something I never imagined. And then when it came along, as a friend of mine once said, when they heard about it, they said, well, I don't know whether you should do it or not. It seems like the most wonderfully dangerous, obvious piece of casting you could imagine. But it's both of those things. Have a think. So I did have a think. And then I took Olivier's advice. He said, have a bash and hope for the best. So that's exactly what I did.